2 weeks since our last video, but I'm back, y'all, and I have thoughts. I had a bunch of thoughts about last week's episode, but I didn't want to share them because Rook's Rest, that was ridiculous. Shout out to Rhaenys and Maylee's, the realest that ever was. They still should be alive today. They should have been the queens of the Resteros, but look how things happen, child. So we open off with season 2, episode 6 of House of the Dragon. It is titled Regent. We open with Corlys, and he's walking through his castle, and he really has got to be the saddest person in Westeros. His wife died, his son died, his daughter died. That's both of his kids. Then his grandchild, who was his heir, died. His granddaughter don't want to be the heir of Driftmark. You know, Corlys just catching strays back to back, I fear. And after this, we cut to King's Landing, where we get to see the most ridiculous thing ever. Is Kristen Cole and the rest of the Greens, not even the rest of the Greens, really, you only saw Kristen Cole and Alicent's brother. I can't think of his name. I think it was Gwaine and Gwaine Hightower. They're riding and talking while they're carting Maylee's beheaded head through the capital of Westeros, through King's Landing. Now, I guess they thought the small folk were gonna cheer and be like, "Oh, we won a battle," but no, the small folk saw it as a bad omen, a dark omen. You even heard some of the small folks go, Rhaenyra will answer this. It's an abomination. Like, what did they expect? The show literally is called House of the Dragon. And here we are seeing a beheaded dragon get paraded around. The symbol of House Targaryen is a 3-headed dragon. And we're going to parade around the symbol of our house, but decapitated and dead. So not only are we showing that we're not as powerful, it's showing that we can be killed. Like, what's going on here? You know, they don't really use their brains. Like they're losing public perception by being a weirdo. They don't really think too big. And then it cuts to Alicent and Aemon. And Aemon literally has the dagger on his hip. And Aegon shouldn't have had that dagger. And Aemon shouldn't have never been able to get the dagger from Aegon, because the dagger should belong to Rhaenyra, the true heir of Westeros. Aemon a pretender, Aegon a pretender, and really, I just want them all to stop, because nobody's a good ruler. Who's ruling well? After this, though, we see Alicent and Aegon. They're in the chamber. Aegon's body, I believe, was just delivered to King's Landing, and Aegon is like all burnt up, and they're pulling the metal off of his skin. Like, the metal was, not the metal, the armor was melted onto his skin. It was so icky, so gross, so nasty to look at. I didn't like that. And I know, like, I wanted to throw up everywhere. I know Alicent had to be having crazy Viserys deja vu, because that's what he looked like. Aegon was sitting in that bed looking just like his daddy. After this, Alicent goes to find Kristen, and Kristen is like, and Alicent is basically going in there to see what happened at Rook's Rest. Why did her son come back like this, and what did Aemon have to do with it? That's what Alicent wanted to know, because Alicent is starting to catch tea on what her son is. Her son is a power-hungry, bloodthirsty, he wants to be the king, but sorry, buddy, you weren't born first. The same way Aegon wasn't born first, but at least he was born a man. But Aemon doesn't have that same, because he's the second born son. And to be honest, in my mind, if Aegon die, just give it to Rhaenyra, and if Rhaenyra die, give it to Aegon. I know they both got their own respective lines and stuff, but literally they're both Targaryens. Who cares? Who cares? We shift over to the Blacks, small council, and the Blacks are in a nasty spot. Like, I need Rhaenyra to fight back so bad. Like, put your dukes up, put them 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 up. That's what she needs to do. She needs to fight. queen don't got a grip on her husband. She don't got an army. She just lost her hand to the queen, Rhaenys, and she just lost her biggest dragon. So that's the Greens knocked out 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. So really, what does Rhaenyra have? I mean, she has the true claim to the throne, but it doesn't matter if you have a claim to the throne if you can't go act on it because you don't got an army. You know what I mean? That's like in Game of Thrones when Ned handed Cersei them papers talking about he's supposed to be the regent until Joffrey comes of age, and she rip. Oh, what does this mean to me now? So if you don't got an army to defend and back your claim, what are you here for? So I really need Rhaenyra to get it together, and to get it together quickly, with speed and haste. Team Black needs a miracle, and that's the only thing that's gonna save them. Rhaenyra getting it together and a miracle. So after this, we go to see Jace and Baela, and Jace just wants to help. You know, I think him and Rhaenyra are in very similar boats. They really want to like do something, but if they die, all of this is kind of for nothing. So they're kind of between the proverbial hard rock and a hard place. Nobody knows what to do. And Jace thinks he could go to Harrenhal to convince Daemon of anything. Won't be happening. But Jace is a smart boy, because there are more lords and ladies and castles and people, bannermen to raise than just Harrenhal. He's like, hey, what about the Freys? We already got the North, but the North is going to have to get down here, and the way they're going to get down here is through crossing that bridge. So if we have the people who control the bridge on our side, then that makes it a little easier for us. So, you know, Jace is a very smart boy. After this, we see Daemon in the Brackens. Like, Daemon is literally on Caraxes, like on the back, and they're with a small group of Brackens, and I think the Lord Blackwood is with Daemon too. Daemon is trying to get the Brackens to basically bend the knee to Rhaenyra, but they're not having it. So Daemon's like, well, I guess you can burn if you don't want to bend the knee. So they turned around, the Brackens turned around and said, we'd rather choose fire. And Daemon didn't burn them boys up. He left them alive. I guess he thought that his dragon was going to be bigger than their pride, but I feel like Daemon should have kind of saw that coming, because nothing really goes Daemon's way. I don't know why he thought this would. And not only that, but Daemon made a threat and didn't act on it. Not only did he make a threat, he made a threat atop dragon back and still didn't act on it. So he very well lost some aura points for me. Like, that was supposed to make the Brackens fear you, and they showed that they weren't scared. So when you get punked and duped like that, you kind of lose a little respect for me. So moving on from Daemon and the Brackens, we're at the Eyrie. Now, I love the Eyrie. The Bloody Gate is just such a cool concept, because not only do you have to make it to the Eyrie, you have to get past this gate, and it's called the Bloody Gate, and they're going to tell you about their Bloody Gate. And one thing about them Arryns is they're going to tell you about how impenetrable and impregnable the Eyrie is. Yes, and I just love the Arryns. I love the Arryn Blue. Her dress ate down. You know, I was really just living for the Arryns. What they were talking about, though, the Arryn was making sense. I don't remember her name. I think her name was like Jane Arryn, but I could be wrong. Rhaenyra sends 2 baby dragons to the Arryns, like that's going to help. You know what I mean? What these 2 hatchlings gonna do when Vhagar roll over, right? They're gonna get ate on up like Meleys did. True tea. So I'm not even mad at the Arryn for being upset with Rhaenyra, because that's kind of like, hey, you're really playing in my face. You need my help more than I need your help, because I can sit in the Eyrie and say I'm not really pledging for either side. You know what I mean? Come over here and take it. I know you got a dragon, but you know, more people need to invest in those scorpions. If everybody had a scorpion or 2, them Targaryens wouldn't be too scary. moving on from the Erie. It's Rhaenyra, and I think her name is Massaria. I've been calling her the Spider. So if you hear me say the Spider Lady, I'm talking about Lady Massaria. So Rhaenyra is really doing a lot of complaining about how her father didn't thrust a sword in her hand, or how she wasn't a man, and that's the reason why her inheritance is being fought over, which is too true tea. But Rhaenyra Berry was a grown woman, knowing that Aegon was going to be a pretender to her crown. So instead of shoring up, making sure that she was the best candidate, she ran to Dragonstone with her illegitimate children out of the face of the public court and also the public scrutiny. But now she's kind of in a position where she can't fight. She doesn't really have a bunch of... She has support, but not really. I think the only people who've declared for her are like her immediate people, like the Valerians, I guess all the people who are in like that Dragon Isle, so Dragonstone, Valerian, the Celtigars, maybe like Massey's Hook, like the Crown Lands. Maybe she has the Crown Lands, but Aegon thinks he has the Crown Lands too. They just took Rook's Rest. So Rhaenyra only really has the Erie, the North. She just got the Erie. She got the Erie, the North, Harrenhal, and the Freys. There's 4 families. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're already going to have a hard time because the Greens have literally high towers. So I'm sure the Reach is on Team Green. The Baratheons are on Team Green. The Lannisters are on Team Green. So that's 3 kingdoms right there. The West, the Breach, and the Stormlands. The Blacks need a miracle. And had Rhaenyra been on her Zoom and hitting her P's and Q's, dotting her I's and crossing them T's, we probably would have been looking at a different scenario. But it is what it is now. After we left Rhaenyra and the Spider Lady, we moved to the next scene. It's Daemon and Harrenhal. It's so freaky and spooky because he's always having these visions, but he's never really doing nothing. But he's never really doing nothing in his, like, what is he doing in Harrenhal? I know he's rebuilding it. He's marrying up some people. Other than that, he's having them freaky visions. It's scary. So he's having sex with this Valyrian looking woman, and Daemon is basically hearing everything he wants to hear. How he should have been the heir, how he was better than Viserys. And then the lady goes, "You were always my favorite son." What? That was his mama. Yuck. He needs to get out of Harrenhal. He needs to run away and never, ever, never, never, never come back, because that's freaky. That's freaky and weird. And I know the Targaryens be into some weird stuff, but that's too weird. Like side eye. Like, what's going on? We getting a Viserys and Daemon scene next. Like, since we're getting real freaky. And not only that, Daemon will have those visions. I don't think you would have those visions while he's sleeping. No, he was at the dinner table. They were talking about the venison. He eating stew, thinking about screwing his mama. That's so weird. But while he was eating, and after he came out of his freaky vision, the Strongs are basically telling Daemon that they need to rebuild everything because the tower has been in complete disarray since Aegon the Conqueror, came to burn it all down. And that they don't have any money because when Lord Larys became the Lord of Harrenhal, he transferred all the funds to King's Landing, so the people actually at Harrenhal are flat broke. They have enough for themselves, but not to rebuild and be what Harrenhal is supposed to be. Oh, and this is when, because Daemon is always talking about his titles. So somebody called him, Your Grace or my Prince. And he was like, what do you call the wife of the king? What do you call the husband of the queen? And Simon says, the king. And Daemon goes, exactly. Simon wasn't done. King consort. Damon, you are the king consort. You are no king. Nobody should be addressing you as my grace. You are the prince. You may be the king consort, but you ain't the king. That's strategic. Then we're back at the Greens, and we're in the Green Small Council. This is where they're looking for a new regent for Aegon. A regent for Aegon. When I was watching it, for some reason, I was like, how are we looking for a new hand in the king when Kristen is literally the hand of the king? They're looking for a regent. But what's the difference between a regent and a hand of the king? Shouldn't the hand of the king have became a regent? I don't know. Somebody let me know. But Alicent wants to be the regent over everybody else. It makes sense because she reigned while Viserys was sick, and Viserys was sick for like the whole show, the whole time he was in it. She ruled in her husband's stead. She ruled the council for a long time, and she's been on the council for a long time, even a longer time than some of those people. You know what I mean? So Alicent, truly, she's the best bet. But you know, it wouldn't really make sense. Now, Larys woke this tea up. They are the opposite side to the woman who was supposed to be the heir of the throne. So what would the Greens look like making a woman the regent over a man? Now, the whole point of this show is that Rhaenyra has to fight for her claim because she was a woman and her little brother is a man. What would the Greens look like putting a woman over a man? So if you like the Greens, you're automatically a misogynist. I don't write the rules. So basically, Aemon becomes the hand of the king. I mean, not the hand of the king, the regent. And Alicent just disassociates for the rest of the meeting. Like, you hear this, it's like this hum and this rumbling noise, and she's just like this. I love Alicent. Alicent is so real. Oh, and Aemon's first orders as regent is to close the gates and cut the rat catchers down. I mean, at least the rat catchers got cut down. Oh, also, the doggy made an appearance. When they showed the rat catchers' dead bodies getting carted off, you saw the dog following the cart. I think that's cute. I want the dog to be the king of Westeros. He the protector of the Seven Kingdoms and the lord of the realms, whatever all them titles is. And like, really, Alicent is gagging people left and right this episode, because now she's pulling up on Kristen Cole in like the courtyard, and she's like, first she gagged them about Aemon. She's like, you know what he is and what he had become. Like, Alicent is waking up to what her son is. Her son wants his brother's spot, and he's, like I said earlier, he's like power hungry, bloodthirsty, and he wants to be in a position that he's not suited for, not qualified for. He wants to be the heir to the throne when his brother shouldn't even be sitting on it. So you're not first in line, really. How many kids Rhaenyra got? He probably like 6th or 8th in line, to be honest. But next, Alicent goes to gag Kristen one more time and ask, has your loyalty faded, or does it only flourish at night and flee the sunrise like a moth? Because you know they be getting freaky. Alicent want to know, so you gonna support me all the time, or you only gonna support me when it's time to be nasty? And Kristen didn't give a good answer. He was just like, oh, are we supposed to put you, the war has gone to dragons. We need a dragon rider to lead us. You know who's a good dragon rider? Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra can control her dragon. She didn't accidentally eat up her little nephew. You know what I mean? Even though Aemon ended up killing Rhaenys and Meleys, not only was Vhagar not outnumbered, but Vhagar did catch some work. The only reason Vhagar was behind that castle was because Rhaenys and Meleys had scratched them up, and Rhaenys had took out Sunfire and Aegon. So let's not act ditzy and silly when we're talking about dragging around. Oop, I started talking about Rhaenys because that's the true queen right there. I just don't like Kristen Cole. I want him to die. I'm ready for him to die. And closing the gates is dumb. The small folks gonna go crazy. Aemon's stupid, but we already knew that. All the Greens stupid. To be honest, the Blacks dumb too. Now we're at Jace. Jace is with the phrase, and I don't know, I kind of live for the phrase because the phrase saw that river and they were like, we should put a bridge right here. And that's what they did. The phrase built a bridge, and that bridge is important strategically to go from the Riverlands, I think, to the north, or to the north down to the south. So they basically made their whole family legacy and lineage on this bridge, and they're going to use that bridge, and they use that bridge. Even we see it in Game of Thrones. That's why Rob died. Rob died over that bridge. But the Freys are funny. They're scared of Vhagar, and Jace is like, how are you scared of Vhagar when my own dragon is right here? It's because, boy, your dragon puny. Vhagar is big and scary and old. Your little dragon right here, I wanted to know, can his dragon melt a bridge? If your dragon can't melt my bridge, then I'm really not too scared of you. You know what I mean? But the Freys want Harrenhal, and like, no shade, I'm rooting for the Freys for real, because I like a house that, you know, is really just in it for themselves. They're like, I don't care who the king is, who the queen is. I just don't want my stuff to get burned down. I just don't want my stuff to get burnt down. But with the phrase wanting Harrenhal, Jace think he's so cunty when he did this. He drunk some of his wine. He stood up. She was like, my mother's going to want more, or the queen's going to want more than just the passing or crossing. She's going to want bent knees. I bust out laughing. I cackled so hard at him. Like, Jace is really the king of Igbo-landia, because to be honest, I really bust out laughing. Now we're back in creepy old Harrenhal with Alice and Daemon. Daemon and Harrenhal is really some spooky stuff. Alice basically tells Daemon that the people of the Riverlands are suffering, and it's really, they're suffering having a war of the nobles, because I promise you the small folk don't care. The only people who care are the people who it more so directly impacts. Rhaenyra cares if she's going to be the queen, because if she's not the queen, they're probably just going to kill her. You know what I mean? And these other, like the Freys, maybe care a little bit more because they want Harrenhal. They're probably not going to get Harrenhal siding with the Greens because Lord Larys has it. But they also said Lord Larys was relieved of Harrenhal. I missed that happening. I'm still a little confused on that. It's because Daemon's there. Creepy old Harrenhal and Daemon. You know, Daemon and Harrenhal is really some spooky stuff. Alice is telling Daemon that the people in the Riverlands are suffering a war, and the war isn't really their war. It's really the war of the nobles. And Daemon is like, you know, I know children and stuff are being slaughtered. They may be raping mothers and burning farms and pillaging stuff, but you know, maybe the people will listen if they think their children are in jeopardy. What? I ain't like that. Daemon weird. He a weirdo. Because Daemon wants to put children in jeopardy in order to make their parents obey. And he also talked about Rhaenyra is not going to be the queen because people want a man to lead, and he think he's going to go to King's Landing, and then Rhaenyra can decide if she just wants to be the queen consort, and they rule hand in hand. But Daemon is so delusional. He's such a dummy. That's not happening. And Alice knew that, and she clocked his teeth. I love seeing Daemon get his teeth clocked. She goes, it's a shame you didn't know your mother. And truly, it is a shame he didn't know this mother. Because basically, you know what she said? She said, you suck, and it's because you never met your mama. You never met your mama for your mama to love you, so you never received your mother's love. And that's why you act the way you act, because you got mommy issues. That's why he was having visions, interloping talking with his mother, and his mother telling him everything he wanted to hear because he just needs some love, but he's to put himself in a loving situation. However, we do find that the Blackwoods beat the Brackens, and now the Brackens have pledged to Rhaenyra. Well, I'll just say in my notes I have that the Brackens are on Daemon's side. After this, we see Corlys and Baela again. Corlys has got to be the saddest nigga in Westeros. He said his castle feels like a tomb, and I'm sure it is. Like, he's hunted by the memories of his family when they were alive. Like, people forget that Corlys is the reason. Well, I don't think people forget. I don't think it's really mentioned as much. They mentioned it in this, how they brought the wealth from Yee and across all the lands of wherever they live in Westeros, in their world. How they went to Yee, Ashai, wherever he went, to Esteros to bring wealth back to Valerian. Because Corlys is the reason why the Valerians are the richest family in Westeros at this time. And Baela said something like, I bet they all didn't know that it was for her. And that was really sad because he did all that for Rhaenys, just for Rhaenys to die. Baela also lets Corlys know that Rhaenyra wants him to be her hand of the king, but he didn't really seem too excited about that. He was like, how much more can you ask for my house? Oh, how much more can you ask for my house? I want Corlys to grow a backbone. For real. But he wants Driftmark to pass to Baela, and here we go again, clocking that tea. They was clocking tea all episode. Baela go, Driftmark's supposed to pass the sea and salt. I'm a fire and blood. She said, I'm a Targaryen dragon rider. Find you somebody to sell a little ship. Don't play with my girl Baela because she cunty. Why be so nasty and so rude when you can be so fierce and so successful like Baela? Then we find out that Rhaenyra is sending one of her small council people to check in on Daemon at Harrenhal. I wasn't paying attention to what his name was. Sometimes it's a lot of characters. I'll figure out his name when it's important. But she sent him to check in on Daemon and to see, like, whose side he's on, whether he's on her side or his side, which is true tea. And also, she wants Daemon to know that she would very much like to resume their last conversation. We cut back to Daemon in Harrenhal, and Daemon is pissy because he got woke up out his sleep, all wham. He want to be the king, but can't be woken from his sleep to rule and deal with his subjects. And the first thing he does is, when he arrives to meet the Riverland Lords, because those are the people who wanted an audience with him, he gives them a lecture and yells at them for waking a king in his sleep. But he is a king consort, as our Lord Simon Strong would let us know. He'll let us know he the king consort. You know what consort means? I don't. They just mean they married to each other, but I don't know the actual definition of consort. I should probably look it up. Now, the River Lords come to inform Daemon that while the Blackwoods overran the Brackens, I believe they said something along the lines of the Blackwoods could get their leave with the Lord Bracken, but the septs on Bracken land were raided. They were burning farms, they were raping women, they were stealing children, they were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And they said that the Blackwoods did all that under the Targaryen banner. They said red dragon on black field. And you know, that's Targaryen. And not only is that Targaryen, I believe that's kind of the imagery that Rhaenyra uses, because Team Green uses a green field, a gold dragon. So not only were the Blackwoods committing like war crimes, they also committed war crimes under the Targaryen banner. And Daemon having visions again. He saw his Valerian wife, I believe her name was Lena. He saw Lena, and Lena was like, oh, but what about our daughters? he cast that vision out and went back to the thing. The people were calling Daemon a tyrant. He is a despot. They call him a tyrant. I'm calling him a despot. They're synonyms. And the Riverland, and the lady was like, and the Riverlands will not raise their banners for a tyrant. And I'm like, that's true too. Nobody should raise their banners for a tyrant. And Daemon is a tyrant. Not only is he a tyrant, he's a tyrannical despot. Stick those two words together. Earlier in the show, when Rhaenyra was speaking to the Spider Lady sent somebody to King's Landing. So we're seeing the lady get snuck into King's Landing. Now, I'm really trying to wonder how all these people, like, these guards suck. None of them are loyal to anybody, because why is the Green Guard letting the Team Black spy into the city when the gates are supposed to be shut? I don't know. They got terrible security. And after we go in, we see Aemond, and Aemond is looking at the Iron Throne. And you kind of have a back shot, so you see like the back of his head, and you see the throne. Then you see Helena step into the frame, and she goes, "Was it worth the price?" And automatically the camera cuts to Aegon gasping in his bed. I hate listening to him breathe. It's like so icky. It's kind of traumatic. And you see Alicent at his bedside, but Alicent is kind of just like sitting there like she does all the time. Alicent is always losing her mind, but this is literally a life to lose your mind in. As she walked away, like after she like walked out the door, Aegon called out, "Mommy," dying. I'm ready for him to die. And somebody on Twitter said, I don't remember their at, but somebody on Twitter said, it's a good thing Alicent didn't hear him, because then she would have thought she was supposed to be the queen. I thought that was funny. After not after Rhaenyra leaves, after Alicent leaves, we see Jace and Rhaenyra. We're back at Dragonstone. And earlier I said Jace and Rhaenyra are kind of in the same boat of wanting to push and fight for their claim, but if their die is kind of all for naught. But to make this long story short, Jace comes up with the bright idea of getting dragon seed to tame the two dragons on a Dragonstone that don't have any riders. I believe the two dragons are Vermithor and I think it's Dreamfire. No, it's Sea Smoke. Is Vermithor and Sea Smoke, and I believe Sea Smoke was Rhaenyra's first husband, the gay one, his dragon. So we end that episode seeing Jace and Rhaenyra come up with a super brilliant, smart idea. The smartest thing I done heard all season. To be honest, not all season. The smartest thing I heard all show. No, the smartest thing I heard all show was when Rhaenyra proposed that Jace and Helena get married so they could just get all of that over with. That's what should have happened. Now we're looking at a civil war where dragons are dying, Targaryens are losing power, and only because they wouldn't let a woman shine. But stay tuned for next episode. It's supposed to be a doozy. I'm actually not ready for next episode. Twitter led me a spoiler, so I know things I shouldn't know. But see y'all next week. Really not next week, because this is coming out way later than it was